Hey, Marcel Irnie Racing News, May 3rd, 2023. Calgary pastor Arthur Pawlowski is guilty of mischief for encouraging truckers to continue blocking the Canada-US border during a 2022 protest that lasted more than 2 weeks at Lethbridge. Judge has ruled. Can you believe this, judge? Oh, man. Pawlowski was also charged under Alberta's Critical Infrastructure Defence Act, the CIDA, for remarks during a 20-minute speech to protesters in COUTTS, Alberta. However, the judge has reserved a conviction on that charge. Well, they reserved that conviction because that is totally unconstitutional, and so the whole issue they want it stayed. Mr. Pawlowski intended to incite the audience to continue the blockade, intended to incite protesters to commit mischief, said Justice Gordon Krinkle in delivering his decision on Tuesday. Justice Gordon Krinkle, K-R-I-N-K-E, Krinkle found the preacher counseled other persons to interfere with the use of Highway 4 in a manner which rendered it useless. But he said his ruling on unwillfully damaging or destroying essential infrastructure would have to wait until the defense's constitutional challenge of the CIDA has been dealt with. It's so ridiculous when you have this situation going to trial and then a judge actually ruling that he caused mischief, the charge of mischief. It's the actual punishment of mischief is the trial. It's the process. It's all about the process. It's nothing. But it's a big process with lawyers and appeals just for the point, all for the point. It's no different than me with herbs. It's so much work for the point of not just paying these tickets and allowing the system to eat us up. You must fight back. You must win in court, unfortunately. And yet here we have the strike, that just happened or still happening, I'm not sure, down in Ottawa, right, over the federal workers, and they're blocking major infrastructure. They're blocking highways. There's no horses trampling on them. There's no SWAT teams. There's no National Guard. There's no Quebecers coming out there with helmets on and pushing them out. There's no people being arrested for the organizers. There's none of that. And yet it's the same thing. Then back to Black Lives Matter. Actually destroying infrastructure. In the US, billions of dollars of damage and looting and buildings and car fires. And let's go look at France right now. If you guys haven't seen, there's an actual protest going in France, but the media in North America will never show you. They will never show you that it's still going on. How many weeks is it? It feels like it's been on a month already. Oh, anyways, let's continue reading. Lawyers Sarah Miller and Chad Haggerty previously issued a notice to challenge the CIDA as unconstitutional. Pawlowski was also convicted Tuesday of breaching a release order to keep the peace and be of good behavior. And he quotes, "I would do it again." Dozens of supporters decorated the front terrace of the Lethbridge courthouse with signs and an 8-foot wooden cross as they sang, played music over speaker, and handed out t-shirts. The mood before the ruling was celebratory. Afterward, it turned angry. Now, so I'm reading, this is an article, by the way, by CBC, our state broadcaster, state propaganda broadcaster. As Pawlowski exited the courthouse, supporters chanted, "Free Pastor Art." And he said, "I'm not ashamed of what I did. If I had a chance to do it again, I would do it again gladly. I stood with the truckers, I stood with the farmers, I stood with Canadians," said Pawlowski to the crowd, promising to pursue an appeal. And of course, justice shall prevail. And the bulk of the Crown's case against Pawlowski consisted of the video of the pastor's speech on February 3rd, 2022, during which he urged protesters to hold their ground. I remember this speech. I posted this speech. It was in the building at the COUTTS border. There was a restaurant nearby that everybody held up at to get warm and have food. "The eyes of the world are fixed right here on you guys. You are the heroes. Don't you dare go breaking the line," Pawlowski said in the video. The protesters ultimately decided to stay and continue their on-again, off-again blockade. The defense argued during the trial that Pawlowski was expressing his opinion and didn't incite the crowd to do anything. I mean, he wasn't their leader. He was invited there to make a speech. The blockade began in late January 2022 to protest the COVID-19 health restrictions, which were totally unjust and proven unjust. The vaccine mandates did nothing but cause more issues for everybody. It impeded Alberta's main U.S. border crossing for more than 2 weeks. More than a dozen people were charged in connection with the protests and blockade, including 4 men accused of conspiracy to commit murder. Yeah, totally unfounded. Still no proof about that. Pawlowski also charged with violating COVID-19 protocols nearly 2 years ago, but the charges were stayed by the Crown in December. Weeks before his Lethbridge trial, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith and Pawlowski spoke on the phone in a recorded call, which was later leaked. Who remembers that story? CBC said that she was trying to intimidate the prosecutor to drop the charges or whatever. Totally unfounded as well, and she's actually discussing or thinking about suing CBC for defamation of her character. While Smith reminded Pawlowski during the call that she can't intervene directly, she also told him that she is questioning justice officials almost weekly about the COVID-related prosecutions. Smith also promised to make inquiries on Pawlowski's behalf, telling him, "Leave this with me," and that the charges against him were politically motivated. CBC News has received a notice of defamation letter sent by lawyers on behalf of Smith. There you go, that's what I was talking about. Calling on the media organization to apologize for and retract a story published in January relating to alleged political interference in the justice system by a staffer within the Premier's office. The story states that the Premier's office staffer sent emails to the Alberta Crown Prosecution Service challenging how it pursued cases connected to the COUTTS protest. CBC's head of public affairs, Chuck Thompson, said in an email statement at the time, "We stand by our journalism on this story, and if necessary, we'll defend it in court." And this is by Megan Grant, Justice Affairs reporter. There you have it, guys. Canada in a nutshell. Bunch of malarkey. We don't have biolabs in Ukraine. That's a bunch of malarkey. It's not worth an ounce of ink that you put it on paper, however John Kirby puts it. Anyways, Irnieracing News.